Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to visit me here at the Ninja Chickens channel for episode number 11. It is May 27th. I rarely ever say the date because I honestly don't know what day it is. I think with homeschooling and not having a job outside of the house, I kind of just get lost in the days. But it is almost June. And I'm coming to you from just outside of Asheville in the mountains of North Carolina. And I'm coming to you outside again today because it's just beautiful. We had a full week of rain last week, which we definitely needed, and the garden is loving it. But it just happens that on the days I want to podcast, it's really nice outside, so we'll podcast out here. Let's see, my name's Maria, and I am ninja.chickens on Instagram, Ninja Chickens on Facebook and Ravelry. There's a Ravelry group where you can find all the podcast notes, as well as on ninjachickens.org. And I try to link as much as possible there, so if I say anything and you don't catch it in the video, it's up there so you can find it. One thing that a lot of people have said they've really liked about the podcast was probably for the first 6 or 7 episodes, I had a tea recipe at the end. And I've honestly not felt very tea creative lately. I just haven't felt like making new things. I guess when there's so many things in the garden, I just want to pick from those. So instead I went and grabbed a few things from the garden, and I thought we'd make a tea right now and just let it steep while you guys are watching. So the first thing I got was lemon balm, which is lemony, definitely. It smells delicious and has a nice lemony flavor. I also got peach leaves, which are one of my favorites. Let me cut these up a little bit, or rip them up a little bit. They don't have really much of a flavor, maybe just the lightest flavor, but they're really nice for cooling you down on a hot day and for sleep, which I'm not going to be falling asleep. It's not that kind of sleep, but relaxing you, kind of getting your mind to stop chattering. I also got some raspberry leaves, and the more you tear them up or chop them when you first make your tea, the more surface area is available for them to absorb any medicine. Let's see, we got some anise hyssop leaves, which are kind of licoricey. And I grabbed some chocolate mint, which is chocolate minty. Some fennel. It's going to be a very minty, licoricey tea. I also grabbed some birch leaves. We had a birch tree come down and an apple tree come down. And so I spent yesterday, a couple days ago, I gathered all the leaves for pressing because they both make nice colors with EcoPrint. And I gathered the bark off the apple and the birch because they also make nice dye material for cotton or wool. And the birch is nice medicine, but hopefully you don't hear this horrible ripping noise there. Okay, and then, of course, the roses are really beautiful right now. This one's already starting to lose its petals, so we'll just toss those petals in there. And a couple of leaves of stevia. You don't need much. It is a very strong flavor, a very strong sweetener. So there's that. And I'm also going to put in a few what's called butterfly pea flowers, PEA. These are dried, and they make the most beautiful blue, so sometimes it's just fun to have them in there to make the color. And I have this really cool teapot. I don't really collect teapots purposefully, but I happen to have 4 or 5 really neat ones, and this one I got at a yard sale for 50 cents, and it's an elephant. So there we go. Oh, it's dribbling. And I'll just let that sit for a little while we talk, and then I'll show you after what it looks like. Let's see if you can see the blue coming out yet of those. No, it's actually really, really green. I wonder what's making it change color, making the blue go to green. All right, so there it is. I'm going to put it here and let it steep for a little bit. And hello, this is a fiber-related podcast, and sometimes we talk about herbs and homesteading and do-it-yourself kind of things, natural dyeing, spinning, all those kinds of goodies. I have a lot to talk to you about today, but I'm going to try my hardest not to make it a super long episode because I know it's hard to sit down and watch an hour and a half at a time. we just, you know, in our busy lives, we just don't have that kind of time in our day anymore. But I have a lot to share with you. There's been some indigo dyeing, there's been some spinning, there's been some knitting, and there's been a tour of an old dye house that is going to be really exciting. So let's start. Let's just start with the finished objects. I have two. The first one is a pair of vanilla socks. There we go. And one of you guys from last week, I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was, or last episode, chimed in to say that this is opal. It is their Happy Mit Silber Effect. Silber Effect. Maybe that means silver effect because it's got glitter in it. Sweet Spicy number 9092. And I love them. They're so cute. It was really fun to knit. I've knit a self-striping before, but I've never really done one that patterns itself. And it feels like it doesn't take as long because the pattern just keeps you interested. I did a garter stitch heel with German short rows, which I really like. And I did do the extra, right here, the extra little mini heel flap to make the heel deeper. That is the Knitting Expat or Mina Phillips design. Yeah, and I like them. They fit me perfectly. It was 56 stitches on a size 1 or US 2.25. And I think this is the way I need to go. It seems like it fits really nicely. I don't feel like I have skinny feet. Maybe I just have a little bit of a looser gauge, and so with a size 1, the 56 stitches comes out well. So that's my first thing. And then my second thing is I did completely finish my secondhand steek-along sweater. Of course, I don't have it buttoned up. But here are the buttons I put on the button band. They are Pottery Buttons from Remembrances Pottery on Etsy. And I was actually looking at these. I've heard of Remembrances Pottery from a few other podcasts, and she makes these gorgeous mugs that look like birch bark, and I absolutely love them. And so I went on there and I was taking a look, and I saw these. And the next day, she contacted me and said, hey, I have these buttons that I think might go well with your sweater. And it was just fate. I had to get them. So she sent me these beautiful buttons. Let's see if I can get a little closer. They're kind of a gray purple, and it has almost that same color up here. So they're perfect. I haven't blocked it yet, so it looks a little bit wavy. The border band, the button band looks a little bit wavy, but I think it turned out really well, and it fits me perfectly. Well, it's too big, but comfy big. And in the winter when I'm going to want to wear this, I'm going to have more clothes underneath anyway. So I'm really excited. That is the second of my 2 secondhand steek-along patterns. And if you're new, what we've been doing is finding a secondhand sweater, something you've got in your closet that you don't fit anymore, or something from the Goodwill, a secondhand store, that is wool and it can have color work or whatever in it, something that either you like or don't, but you are okay with experimenting with, and you learn how to steek or cut your knitting, and then add on the button band, either crocheted or knitted, and finish it off so you can get over your fear of steeking. So I hope you guys have been enjoying that. There have been some posts in the Ninja Chickens Ravelry group, and I'll put this up in there, and I'm excited to wear it come winter. Those are my 2 finished objects. I have just one work in progress, and it's almost a finished object. I got started on the Amiga's tank top by Dami Hunter, who is also who is Magpie Fibers. She's a designer. Sorry, one of the chickens laid their eggs. They'll go on like that for a little while. It's a big deal. You got to announce it, you know. So she is a designer and a yarn dyer. And when I was at Maryland Sheep and Wool, I picked up that pattern and some of her solstice yarn. It's a beautiful white, and it's a mix of, let's see, cotton, wool, and silk, I believe. Let me make sure I've got that right. Yeah, 50% merino, 25% silk, 25% cotton. And this is the color Fior de Latte. And my plan is when I'm done to dunk it in the indigo vat. And I'm hoping during the next episode I will have that for you and I will record it. So it's knit like this, but you wear it like this. So I'm knitting the front and the back at the same time because why not? So the bottom there is what's going to be the right or left side, and then the middle, and then this right here I'm finishing up with the next side, and then you will sew them together at the shoulders and along the side seam. And I really like it. This cotton, or this fiber, this yarn is so squishy and soft. It's going to be really nice to wear, and I'm very excited to see how it turns out. My only thing, and it's not really a qualm or anything, just something I'm not positive about. I've worked a lot with dyeing wool. I've worked very little with dyeing cotton. And I know that some people use soy milk, and I know that some people use alum acetate as opposed to alum sulfate, which is what you use for wool. I have soybeans. I can make some soy milk. I have alum acetate. I'm thinking I might just mordant it in the aluminum sulfate and the aluminum acetate and soy milk, because then I feel like I've covered all the bases. It should take up the dye and hopefully be a nice vibrant red. So we'll see. So yeah, I'm very excited. I'll probably finish that today. It's the only thing on my needles right now. So yeah, it's going fast. And it's a worsted weight yarn, so it goes quickly. So that is that. Those are my knitting things. I have a little bit of spinning for you. When I last showed you my spinning, I was working on what I thought might be a Dorper fleece, but it's not. But I don't know what it is, but it's super, super soft. And it was spinning up really fine and really well. And I put it away for a couple of weeks because I was doing a lot of knitting, and when I picked it back up, I just could not get back in the hang of things. It kept breaking. It just wasn't flowing, and it wasn't feeling good. So I just stopped, and I ended up getting 80 yards. This. It's super lovely. It's really soft, and I sent the rest off to a friend who likes spinning more than knitting and said she would spin it for me and either trade me for yarn or, you know, give me half back or whatever. And I don't really even need that much. I just want to see it made into something because I spent the time and money to get it de-haired and clean the fleece and all of that. So I want someone to be able to use it. But this is so squishy and luscious. So hopefully she enjoys spinning it. What I'm going to put on the wheel next is... Okay, so the kids just came out. Leaf has had a sleepover, has a friend over. He's running around in his underwear and pajama shirt. And I'm like, gotta be in your underwear on my video. He's like, whatever. Sorry for the crinkling. So I cleaned the camel fiber that I got from the farm nearby. And I told you about that a few episodes back. And then Leaf helped me put it through the carder. And it really had a lot of vegetable matter and just little pieces of stuff, and it still does. And we cleaned it out as much as we could and put it through as many times as we wanted to. And I'll probably just be picking some of it out as I go. But it's super fluffy. Really pretty color. I haven't heard back from him again because he had said he was going to collect some yak and some camel and, you know, whatever else they had so that I could spin it up. And I haven't heard back from him. But probably what I will do is when I spin this into a yarn, I'll bring it over there so they can see it and see what it's like, because it was his camel specifically he owned, or was, you know, the parent of this specific camel. So I know he'll like to see what that looks like. So that's going to go on my wheel next. Who knows? Maybe when I finish the Amigas, I'll get that started. Let's see. So, wow, this is going faster than I thought. So I have lots of time to tell you about a few things. I did a garden tour. Many of you have seen my little garden tour video. A lot of people wanted to see what my gardens looked like and what herbs I had in there. And so I did a little garden tour for you guys and put that on. Sorry, I'm a little distracted because I just realized my tea is probably ready and I don't have anything to pour it into. I thought I brought a mug out, but I didn't, so I'll have to go get one in a sec. But the garden tour was just walking around the house showing off the vegetable gardens and the herb gardens, and I'm glad you guys liked that. It was a lot of fun. It's the last video back if you haven't seen it yet. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get a mug. All right, so I strained it out, and I actually poured it back into this because I wanted you to see it. Isn't that gorgeous? That is what the butterfly pea flower does. And it's not, I mean, it's a good flower to drink. It's not one that I grow around here. It's not one that I learned about in school, really. I just learned about it. It's not native to North America that I know of. It's more of a tropical vine. And I learned about it when I was researching natural food coloring because my son wanted a cake that had blue on it, and blue's not an easy color to get. So, so that's how I found out about it. And when I ordered it, they sent me a little list of things that it's good for. And I don't remember them, but it's a good tea to drink. So I add that sometimes just for the fun of the color. And let's see, I'll pour it into my mug so I can drink it instead of drinking out of the Pyrex, which there's nothing wrong with. So it's lemony, just the slightest bit licoricey, and a little sweet from the stevia. It's really nice. So there's the tea. It's not something you can necessarily repeat unless you have all those things in your garden, but I guess the point is to learn what plants that you have around you. Learn which ones are edible, which ones can be used for medicine and for teas. Even if you just learn 2 or 3, then you've got a couple you can go to. Like most people don't know that violet leaves and violet flowers, which grow all over the place, or dandelion leaves and flowers and roots, those can be made into teas and they're very tasty, and a lot of those are considered weeds in people's yards. So yeah, learn the plants around you, and then you can make some teas from your own yard. And if you live in an apartment and you have no yard around you, you know, is there a possibility of rooftop garden, or do you have a balcony that you can just put a couple of herbs in pots out and harvest those to make your own teas? Okay, so I've been doing a little bit of dyeing. I got an indigo vat going, and this time I did a henna vat. I usually do fructose vats to use as the reducing agent to remove the oxygen from the indigo so it will bond to the fabric. But I had learned a bit about henna vats and find that they are a bit darker to start with. So I thought, why not give that a try? And I really like it. I used those moon phases that my neighbor made for me. I showed them off in episode 10, and they were so cool. It's a bunch of napkins. cool. Let me show you. I made 4. I did it last weekend at some point, and then it started, like, it was sprinkling off and on while I was doing it, and then it just started pouring, so I didn't get to make a whole lot. But I made 4 napkins like that. Isn't that amazing? They turned out so well. I'm really excited. I plan to do some more of these. And right now he's trying to think of a way to do like a shooting star. And if you saw my Instagram feed last night, we found a Luna moth. It's the only time I've ever seen a Luna moth in this area. I've seen them before, but years ago at other houses. And Lee found one next to the swing where they're playing right now. Hopefully the background chatter isn't too loud. But he found one and they came running in. And they're like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a Luna moth. How cool." So we did a little research onto, you know, like where you actually can find them. And it's pretty much along the eastern coast of the United States. How big they get, how you can tell the male from the female. And found out that the moths only live about 7 days, where they find a mate, lay their eggs, and then they die. And they don't eat when they're in moth stage. They just don't need to anymore. But they, you know, put their hands out on the rose. It was sitting on a rose bush, and it just climbed right on. And man, this thing is heavy. And his little claws, he grabs big time. It was really neat. I was not expecting that weight or that intensity in his grabbing. And just grabs on and walked along up our clothes. And we ended up, it seemed like its wings were really floppy and somewhat moist. So I think it had just emerged from its cocoon. So we ended up putting it on a fern to just kind of hang and let its wings dry. And the wind would blow it, and over time, instead of having its wings closed, it started opening them up and sat there like that for the night. I haven't checked on it yet. Maybe I'll do that in a minute and see if I can bring it over for you to see.
Well, I was hoping it would be there to show you, but it had flown off, hopefully to find a mate so we can have lots of Luna baby moths around. My point in talking about the Luna moth was that I'm hoping my neighbor could maybe make me a Luna moth shape resist for indigo dyeing.
So that was some of my indigo dyeing. And then I went to one of the local secondhand stores and pretty much bought them out of anything white that looked at all nice, from like size extra small to extra large, because I figure it could all go into the indigo vat. 1 or 2 of the things fit me, but the rest of them, I don't know, maybe I'll put them in the Etsy store. I've only dyed one so far, and it's this really cute little skirt or little dress. And this one's the one that fits me. And along the bottom, I put the moon phases. I realize now, because of the ruffles, it's really not easy. Cats are running over. It's not easy to see the moon phases. I know they're there, but you can't really tell unless I flatten it out and show people. But it's cute. But all the rest of the things I got don't have so many ruffles. They're fairly flat or have a flatter surface. So I'll see how that does. I did talk to my neighbor about making those, and at first he was really excited, and then he really thought about it, and he said, you know, I think he's almost 70. I can't remember how old he is. He looks younger than he is. He said, if I, you know, to make 1 or 2 for you, if you want it, that's great, but I don't know that I want to go into mass production with those. Which I was sad, because you guys need these. They're so cool looking. But I am working on testing out some not fiberglass. I'm forgetting the name of the plastic. It's just basically a hard plastic. He had a piece of it and can cut that stuff out. And I was going to simmer it as high as I would simmer a regular dye bath to see how it does. I don't think it's supposed to melt till 350 degrees, and I don't usually go above 180, so it should be fine. But if plexiglass, if it does do fine in a dye bath, then he's going to cut another few sets of those out of the plexiglass for me, so that I can not just do indigo, but then maybe take it and dip it in madder and make, you know, purple and red and blue, and maybe offset the moon phases or something. And I just think that would be really neat. And I'm going to see if he'll show me how to do it. He has all the tools, but I think my husband has some similar tools. And if I can make some, then maybe I can just do a few of them to put in the store, because they're so much fun to play with. And I know there were a few of you who are interested. So that was the dyeing. And then related to the dyeing, I live near the Biltmore House, which some of you may have heard of. I don't know if it still is, but I believe it is the largest private residence in the United States. It was built by the Vanderbilts, beginning of the 1900s. If you haven't heard of the Vanderbilts, you may have heard of Gloria Vanderbilt, who made clothes in the 80s, had a clothing line. She was kind of popular. She's, I think, a granddaughter or a great-granddaughter. But anyway, the Vanderbilts moved to Asheville when there wasn't as much here, and they brought a lot of industry and jobs because of this massive, massive house. I'll see if I can insert a picture for you so you can see it. And Mrs. Vanderbilt, it was George Vanderbilt and, oh, what was her name? Edith. Edith was interested in a lot of community work. I don't remember exactly how it started. I can't remember the details, but I went to, well, I'll keep going. I know there were two women who put together a woodworking club. I believe in the beginning it was just for boys to learn how to use woodworking tools and build things as a way to kind of keep out of trouble, have something to do, learn a skill. And Edith heard word of this and wanted to take part, and it ended up blossoming into this boys and girls club, woodworking and textiles. And it became, and it grew into a fairly large thing, where people were really the woodworkers would build the things that the textile workers would need to make this really nice fabric. And people heard about the fabric and that it was really, really nice, and they would come down and buy something. And, you know, whenever the Vanderbilts had visitors, they'd show it off. They might make them a suit, something like that. So it developed into something pretty big. Let me see. I was looking to see if I had other notes with details. But at some point, so I think it was in the 1914, Edith sold the business. No, let me step back. She wanted to have the best fiber. So she sent those two women who started the club initially over to Scotland, which is renowned for its tweed fabric. And they learned the secrets, the Scottish secrets, and they brought back a Scottish loom. And then the woodworkers copied that loom and created, well, at one point there were up to 40 looms in this one area. It was on the Biltmore estate for a little while. And then after George Vanderbilt died, Edith sold the whole thing to her son-in-law, a man named Fred Seeley. Is that right? Fred Seeley. And he continued to grow the business. And no, it wasn't her son-in-law. It was the man who built the Grove Park Inn's son-in-law. I don't know. It's like all this tangled web. But it passed down through hands, and it just kept growing. And Fred Seeley moved it to the land next to what's called the Grove Park Inn. And I'll put another picture of that in here. And he built an area for them to work, to do the weaving, to clean the fiber, and to dye it. So what I toured was this old dye house that had not been opened. It has not been shown for tours, I don't think, since the 1970s or 80s. And it was wild. So we went in first to this small room where it was basically the museum. It had some pieces of cloth. It had an old loom. It had a spinning wheel, old newspaper clippings and information about what had come to be called Biltmore Industries. What was the official? Hand-woven, hand-spun. So we went in, Leif and Kaya went with me, and we went to the museum to tour and had a little video and a man who told us the details kind of behind all of this and how it had grown. And that, you know, of course, in the 40s and 50s, as industry developed, there were quicker and easier ways to make a good fabric than to hand weave it. And so they were having a really hard time keeping up with demand. And over time it got smaller and smaller and smaller. There was a man that bought it from Fred Seeley who, Harry Bloomberg. He's another person we know around here because he had like one of the first Cadillac dealerships in the area. And he was very interested in it. Actually, no, let me read you that because that's actually an interesting part. So in 1942 and by mid-century, industry automation made hand-loomed cloth more expensive and less marketable. And Seeley's son, Fred Jr., was selling the company and liquidating everything. Harry Bloomberg, a local entrepreneur with multiple businesses, came to look at a large cloth-cutting table when a copper moonshine still sitting in the corner caught his eye. When he inquired about purchasing the still, he was told he'd just have to buy the whole operation. So if you want this little still, you just have to buy everything. Buy the whole business, whatever. Within 20 minutes, they've decided on a price. I just thought that was hysterical. So he bought everything and kind of fell in love with it. And for 25 years, kept it going mostly out of his own pocket because he didn't want to see that history gone. So I guess that means it was closed in the late 60s, early 70s. Well, it had to be sometime in the 70s because I found a ticket of something that said 1975. So we toured the museum and then we went into the actual dye house, and this place was amazing and creepy, and you feel in a way like you're getting sucked back into history, if that makes any sense. It almost seemed like everybody just picked up and walked away. You could find the old dye bins or the washing bins, the old carders. There were old spindles just sitting around in bags. There was the old labeling machine. Just like everything that you'd find in a modern day mill, they had all that stuff here. And some of that, these things were made in the 30s and 40s. It was really cool, or earlier than that. It was very cool to see the mechanization of all of it. So we were downstairs looking with a group of people and listening to someone else kind of talk about it. And we were told, the mule spinners are upstairs. So Kaya and Leaf and I headed upstairs and no one else went. And it was wild. Like it was like going into an old theater or something that had all these old props. There was a bunch of stuff in there that had nothing to do with fiber, you could tell, or textiles. You could tell someone was just using it to keep it there. But some of the ceiling areas were falling in. Some of the windows were a little cracked. There was one spot at the far end where there was a window with leaves inside and then vines climbing up the outside and a mirror. And it was just eerie looking. And then these two signs, one about working there and one about constipation and vegetable pills. And then there were old mechanical parts, old iron parts and pieces that they would have used to fix things, and massive mule spinners where they would put all the pin roving, the fine roving, and then spin it from there. And there were 50 or 60 of these ready to be spun that have just been sitting there. And bags and bags and bags of bobbins or spindles, I guess it'd be bobbins, with spun stuff that's ready to get used for warping. It was wild. I loved it. Even the kids really liked it. I thought they were going to be bored. And Kaya was in there taking all these pictures of the creepy spots. And Leaf was like, Mom, look at this. Wow, Mom, look at that. He was finding all these cool little nooks where there were things hidden. It was amazing. So in walking, I'll put, all kinds of pictures up so you can see it. But as I was walking, as we went downstairs to the main floor, the man who gave the tour and the general manager of the textile area were walking in, and I stopped them and I said, have you ever thought of letting anyone try and spin it? Because this stuff was not like all these big rolls of awaiting pin drafted fiber. It had not been moth eaten. There was some stuff in there that had, but this stuff looked good. I even took some of it and spun it in my hand, gave it a little twist. And he was like, well, actually, we've thought about that. They're thinking about coordinating with one of the local colleges that has a textile program to see if they can come in and remove all the stuff that doesn't belong there anymore. Maybe even see if they can get stuff, I don't know if it's get stuff running or what they're planning on doing, or if they're wanting to revamp the whole, like see if they can produce fiber anymore or cloth anymore. I'm not exactly sure, but I told him, okay, well, I'm a fiber person. This is what I do. I would be so interested. And I gave him my name and number. And then he said, hold on a second, I have something for you. And he walked over to one of the bags, these bags full of these bobbins, and he gave me this. Check this out. This is something that was awaiting being, put on one of the little shafts and used for either the warp or the weft. I don't know, but man, this is so cool. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. No, I can't do anything with it. It's not like I'm going to take this and knit anything with it, but it's going to stay on the little table with my other precious fiber things, because this just means a lot. It's really sweet. So one of the things that this mill was known for when in their heyday, because they were so known for the cloth that they put out, was a lot of the presidents and their wives would come down. They'd pick out what they wanted. They'd have suits or outfits made, and then they'd go back home. I think, let me see. The Roosevelts and Herbert Hoover and the Coolidges. I'm not sure how you make that plural. Coolidges. Grace Coolidge, the wife of President Coolidge, really loved the color red. So when they went down to visit, they had prepared a special fiber for her. And there's actually an old video of someone stirring the wash vat and pulling out this gorgeous red. And they named it Coolidge Red for her, and when she left the area, she traveled back with her newly made suit of Coolidge Red cloth from Biltmore Industries. And that was one thing that has kind of stuck with some people in the area. And it was considered one of the most famous colors that came out of Asheville. And there's a woman named Diane Kepley, who is the great-granddaughter of someone who was a weaver at Biltmore Industries. And she remembered hearing about all this stuff going on from the family and was especially interested in Biltmore Industries. She and Echo View Fiber Mill, who it's a mill maybe 40 minutes, if that, 30 minutes, kind of northeast of me, were really interested in bringing back this famous color. So they got together with a natural dyer. Let me see if I can find her name. Donna Brown, who has taught dye classes in this area and done a lot of work with natural dyes. And they asked, would you be willing to see if you could recreate history? So Donna came, she wasn't living in this area at the time, I don't think. She came down to the Grovewood Gallery, which is where the company basically that now owns Biltmore Industry and is doing the tours. And they let her in to the old dye house and showed her what they had left of the old swatches of this Biltmore Red, or Coolidge Red. And from that, she experimented for months to come up with the right color. And now Echo View is spinning Coolidge Red yarn. So I have some. Here it is. I went over to Echo View and picked some up yesterday. This is their DK. And there was no recipe or anything from the red, from the original cloth. So she had to come up with it herself. But it is 100% merino, organically dyed. It says organically dyed. It doesn't say naturally dyed, though a lot of the paperwork I found said she worked naturally with it, but it's possible she didn't. And And then Echoview went on to produce a few other skeins of different colors related to things in this area, so that they had kind of like a Western North Carolina themed batch of yarns. So there was stuff like Looking Glass Falls and Sliding Rock and Chimney Rock and all these other places that tourists will know about when they come to visit. So I'm going to do a giveaway for this skein, as well as from their Nubby Silk collection, Sliding Rock. And this is a really pretty gray. They don't have to be used together, but they are both DK, so they could be. Sliding Rock is a place maybe about 45 minutes from here. That is a huge boulder in the middle of a river, a cold river, where you can slide down the whole thing. You start at the top and you go sliding, and when you hit the bottom, that water is so cold, it catches your breath. But on a hot summer day, it is so much fun. It's been a while since I've been. Actually, I don't know if I've ever been with the kids. I guess it's one of those things that if you live here, you take it for granted a little bit. But also, the last time I went, I was in my teens. And there's one spot in this huge rock. You could have 30 people sliding down at the same time. There's one spot on the side where there's a dip, and you try and avoid that. And the last time I went, I couldn't avoid it, and I hit it really hard. I was so bruised. I was like, I'm not doing that again. So I might have that memory of Sliding Rock, and maybe that's why I haven't been, but I should take the kids. But yeah, this one is 90% merino, 5% silk noils, and 5% tussa silk. So they're both gorgeous. So I'm going to do a giveaway for this. And I hadn't thought of a prompt, but I'm thinking one right now. It's going to be, tell me about something special or historic to your area. It doesn't have to do with fiber, but if it does, great. And if it has to be, if it's an old whiskey mill or it's an old schoolhouse, whatever, something that you want to share from where you live. And I will leave, let them run past first. Stomp. I will leave the thread open for 2 weeks. So till 2 weeks Friday, which is going to be the 10th of June. I think it might be the 10th of June. So that I can pull a winner before I film for the next podcast. So I'll have it in the notes anyway. I'll look up the dates and I'll put that in the Ravelry group. So if you'll go to Ravelry, I will put that up and have all the details. If you would like to win these fabulous yarns, this is Sliding Rock. This is Coolidge Red. I would love to pass those on to you. I am not, however, getting rid of this. I'm going to be selfish and keep this one. But if I can ever get another one, I will do a giveaway. So, I think that's it. Let me see. I have a couple pictures here that were of the mill. That is when it had all 40 of the looms working. I think it was over 900 yards could be created a day. Something crazy. But yeah, super amazing. I think that's it. I think I've covered everything. Was it insanely long? No, it was only 45 minutes. Yay! Okay, I won't say anything more. I will get you guys off the computer. Have a fabulous day. Go check out the Ravelry group if you're interested in the giveaway. Say hello. It was nice to see you guys. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.
If that mockingbird won't sing, Papa's